Shifting to the next game on Tennessee's schedule, and the last thing we will discuss tonight, and that is Kentucky. And, you go into certain games every year, particularly the big three, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, where your result in that game kind of defines the season. If you play one of those teams close and win one or two of those games, then it's not a bad year usually. If you lose all three games and you're not competitive in them, then the season's a little bit of a wash. But usually there is a win in your back pocket in SEC play, and that win is typically Kentucky. Here's the thing. If you want to consider yourself a competent Tennessee football coach, you will not lose to Kentucky. It's the truth. I did the math earlier today just to make sure I remembered correctly, and guess what? All three coaches that lost to Kentucky within the last 15 years were fired less than a year after that loss to Kentucky. Derek Dooley lasting the longest, I believe, 11 months and 3 weeks, so not quite a year. Butch Jones lasted, 2 weeks, I think, because he coached the Southern Miss game, and then he got run out of the stadium by Missouri the week after that, the Will McBride experience. And then Jeremy Pruitt, I think, was basically 4 months because they fired him January 18th. Maybe I'm getting my math wrong. I don't know. But again, the point stands. If you lose to Kentucky, bad things will happen to you as a Tennessee football coach, especially this Kentucky team. They are at the end of what feels like a marriage that was good several years ago with their head coach, but it's no longer the case. They play this style of football that is heavily oriented on running the football and playing defense. And when you're winning and getting to bowl games and doing all that fun stuff at a place like Kentucky, it's great. But when you start losing, your fan base is going to get very tired of it very quickly. And I think that's what we've got going on at Kentucky. Do have a couple more stats to share with you before I hand it to you, Jordan. Mark Stoops has 8 total wins over SEC opponents that have finished the regular season with winning records. Just 2 of those are after the year 2020. They are against Mississippi State in 2022 and Ole Miss last season in Oxford. Dating back to November 2021, here are the teams with 2 SEC wins in Lexington, Kentucky. You have, of course, Kentucky. But then you also have Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Again, Tennessee must win this football game. This is the worst Power 4 team Tennessee will play all season. There are no excuses for a loss this weekend.
Yeah, so we were talking about earlier about potential hot seat with Josh Heupel if things don't change around. I'll tell you, he'll be firmly on the hot seat if Tennessee is to lose to Kentucky this next week. That is like the number 1 10 commandment you don't break as a Tennessee head coach. That's the golden rule. You don't lose to Kentucky. And speaking of not losing Kentucky, I did a little math here too. And Tennessee has played Kentucky for 132 years. Or that's when the rivalry started, is 132 years ago. Guess how many times Kentucky actually beat Tennessee at their home stadium in that 132 years.
Kentucky at Kentucky's home stadium?
At Kentucky, yeah.
It's got to be more often than in Neyland Stadium, right? Or is it fewer?
Not by much. I mean, it is more than Neyland Stadium, but not by much. I'll just give you the answer right here. Tennessee has only lost to Kentucky at their home stadium 15 times in 132 years.
Yeah.
15 times. So Tennessee surely can't lose this game. On top of that, too, I'm seeing that Kentucky's leading receiver, Kendrick Law, he is number 49. Number 49, not in the country, number 49 in the SEC in terms of receiving yard. That is their leading receiver, by the way.
Yeah.
They have no other receivers in the top 50.
Yeah, and another stat that's very unfortunate with this Kentucky team. He's got 199 receiving yards for the season. So first and foremost, that is not very good at this point in the season. Did you know, Jordan, that that Kentucky's wide receivers through 6 games of the season, I believe it's 6 because they've already had 2 bye weeks, they have combined for 1 touchdown catch.
Yikes.
The tight ends have caught some touchdown passes, so I will say that as a little bit of a caveat. But their wide receivers have been very unproductive this year. Let's just call that like it is. It's not at all good. And Jordan, going back to what you said about the overall record Tennessee has over Kentucky, you and I will be dead and gone long before Kentucky ever has a winning record over Tennessee in football. They would have to win. I forget how many straight exactly it is. It's at least 55 straight to have a winning record over Tennessee.
Well, if Tennessee wins the game this year, Kentucky will have to win the next 60 games to tie it up. So
Yeah,
so that's something that we're not going to see, probably not our grandchildren. Like, I don't know if you ever get out of a hole like this. I mean, it's got to be one of the most one-sided rivalries in all of college football. I think the only one that really comes to my mind that's more, yes, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. That's the only other rivalry I can think of that's close. Or unless you want to count Vanderbilt in there, but even then, Vanderbilt's been more competitive than Kentucky.
Texas A&M is much more akin to that than the third Saturday of October, and people are hyping up that one like crazy, but people tend to hype up things from Texas that are not worth the hype. Sorry if you're watching this and from Texas, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and I got suckered in last year. I mean, one of my good friends, he knows that I'm really into college football, and I've predicted some upsets in the past, and I was feeling good about my choice that week. And he was like, I got this $150 free money I can bet with. He's like, tell me what game to put it on. I was like, you're going to put it all in one game? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, dude, I don't want this kind of pressure on me. But I'm like, all right, pick Texas A&M over Texas. And then I helped lose my friend $150. When I thought about changing up my prediction, like I was like a couple hours before the game started, or before he placed his bet, I was like, actually, maybe you should take South Carolina over Clemson, which would have won him money, but no. Yeah, Texas A&M fooled me.
So let's look more specifically at the matchup now. And it's been a strange year for Kentucky at quarterback. They were originally starting Zach Calzada, who is somewhat of a journeyman in college football, living off the success he had against Alabama in 2021, 4 years later. Transferred to Auburn, did nothing at Auburn, balled out at Incarnate Word, and then transferred to Kentucky. He has not played or started for Kentucky, I should say, since that Ole Miss game they lost all the way back in week 2. And by the way, that is the most Kentucky has scored on an SEC opponent in a game is 23 this season. So not been good for them offensively. They do have a nice little running back in Seth McGowan. I believe he went for over 100 against South Carolina a few weeks ago. Also had a nice game against Ole Miss as well. So definitely look for him. But overall, their run offense has not been that good. He had 112 yards in that game at South Carolina, but the game was over pretty quickly because of some defensive touchdowns. We talked about the wide receiver problems that they have. But Kendrick Law, I will say, is a very athletic player. You can look for him to get involved in some jet sweeps. I know they like to use him in that facet of the game on offense. And one other thing, too, about Kendrick Law, he had a testy interaction with a certain Tennessee defensive back who many of the Tennessee fans have mixed feelings about on the third Saturday of October last season.
What are you referencing?
When Boo Carter punched him in the face.
Oh, that was him?
Yes. That's Kendrick Law. So that's a little blast from the past there for you to preview this rivalry, I guess you could call it that. Look for the tight ends to get involved in this game because, again, the receivers are just not productive for them. It's not like Georgia where they have good wide receivers, but you always have to be watching the tight ends. No, it's look for the tight ends because the receivers are not productive. That's what we're discussing in this light now because you've got two tight ends, Willie Rodriguez, who I think was one that Tennessee was trying to get out of the portal a few years ago, but they opted for Holden Stays and Miles Kittelman instead that year. And then Josh Caddis is the other one. I believe he scored a touchdown against Tennessee last year. I know for sure he scored one against Georgia earlier this season on one of the one good drives that they had in that Georgia game. So they'll get those guys involved. But I'll tell you this. I would be very disappointed if Tennessee does not get it going in the pass rush this week, because Texas and South Carolina have eaten them alive. South Carolina was putting all kinds of crazy licks on Cutter Boley in that game, threw a couple interceptions, one of which was a touchdown. One of those sacks ended up going for a scoop and score as well in that South Carolina game. They ended up scoring 35, but two of those touchdowns were defensive. It's just kind of what South Carolina tends to do this year. But again, they made him feel the hits early on in that game. And despite giving up some one early touchdown, I should say, they ended up getting after him. Georgia and Ole Miss had some success doing that, but not as much as those teams did. But I would say that you're going to have to get after him, make him feel uncomfortable. And the run defense has to hold its own in this game, because you can get after their backs in the backfield. The offensive line is not anything phenomenal. But again, we've seen how Tennessee has defended the run this year, and it does raise a little bit of a concern.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee has struggled on the run, like as we've talked ad nauseum before. I mean, Tennessee's rush defense has been pretty bad this year, but it seems like Kentucky's pretty one-dimensional. I mean, outside of McGowan, I don't really know how much they got going for them. I mean, their quarterback Boley, I mean, he's got half as many yards as Joey Aguilar does, and I know he didn't start the entire season, but like, I don't know. I mean, they don't really have many offensive stars, like if any, outside of McGowan on the team. So I think Tennessee fares well. I mean, the offense. Tennessee's offense is night and day better than Kentucky's. And I've been a little bit critical on Tennessee over reliance on the blitz in the past, especially with running quarterbacks. But I mean, I say in this game, let them loose, let them go crazy. Try to get 10 sacks in this game. Really cause havoc for Kentucky, because I'll say, I think the best thing Tennessee needs right now is they need to absolutely punch Kentucky in the mouth and stomp on their throats and run up the score on them. I mean, after that Alabama game, I hope that every player in the locker room, Josh Heupel included, I hope they're all mad, upset, and they need to take their anger out on someone. So why not make it little brother Kentucky and run up that score on them? Run up that score like we've seen Josh Heupel do against some of these group of 5 schools there late at the end.
Yeah.
Put the backups in and keep throwing the ball and just absolutely destroy them. And maybe that's what Tennessee needs to get the momentum swinging again, because after Kentucky, it's going to be a little bit of a tough road.
Absolutely. And looking at this team on the defensive end, nobody's really put up crazy numbers passing the ball against them, but that's because they haven't needed to. Like I mentioned with South Carolina, I mean, Lenora Sellers didn't have any turnovers in that game, didn't throw any touchdown passes, because they got it going on the ground enough in that game. And again, they forced all kinds of turnovers that turned into instant touchdowns for them. So there's no need to do that. I watched almost all of that game against Georgia when Tennessee was on a bye week. And I'll say this, it felt very much like watching a non-conference game. Georgia did not look like it was in any kind of hurry. It was not fearful of what Kentucky was doing on the defensive end. It just knew, like, you get 3rd and long, we'll just run this play and we'll be just fine. So never really got that feeling in that game. Ole Miss, I kind of throw out just because, Austin Simmons was the quarterback for Ole Miss. So you didn't really have to worry about it's a bit of a tough thing to judge just because you've seen a quarterback who's been benched now effectively, or at least it would appear to be, going against that team. So it's a thing of the past. And then, of course, you got Texas, who I think we can agree This has less to do with Kentucky having a decent defense and Texas just being completely inept on offense at times. That's just what it looked like. Going back and watching some of those highlights, because obviously we weren't able to watch that game with it going on the same time as the Tennessee game was. But yeah, I mean, they're going to try and field a tough defense, but I'll say that the next time that Josh Heupel's offense scores less than 28 points on a Mark Stoops defense, will be the first.
Yeah, and I don't see it happening. Like I said with the Alabama game, I mean, you got to think that there's a fire lit under this Tennessee team. And then on top of that, too, I mean, Kentucky's got more turnovers than they do passing touchdowns. So you'd like to think Tennessee can force a couple in this game and then probably capitalize it, too. And if it comes down to like passing the football, if it's going to come down to that, where both teams are trying to trade shots, there's no way that Kentucky keeps up with Joey Aguilar. But I don't even think Joey Aguilar has to have a crazy game in this one. I mean, honestly, I think Tennessee could ground and pound Kentucky for the whole game if they wanted to, but might not be the smartest idea considering that, like, Bishop got shaken up a little bit a couple weeks ago, try to keep him healthy. But maybe Tennessee can use this to get some more people ready. Maybe we can see a little bit more Peyton Lewis in this game because I know that he started to pick it up a little more in the year. And then Staley's been picking it up too. I saw that, where is it here on my notes? He's got 3 games now with 92 yards or more. And all 3 of those games were against SEC opponents, Georgia, Arkansas, and Alabama. So he's starting to merge a little bit too. Maybe get him some more catches. But this could be a good game too if Tennessee really wants to give Chris Brazzell the ball back, because I mean I think he's pretty much hurt his chance of winning the Biletnikoff now, but maybe he could put up some numbers that could maybe help get him back in the conversation. But I'm just more so hoping that Tennessee players don't get hurt this week, because I feel like there's no excuse when it comes to losing Kentucky, and I'm not going to predict Tennessee to lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, I have a feeling that you'll see the run game get going. 3 of the 4 teams that Kentucky has lost to have done really well on the ground. Those being Georgia, South Carolina, and Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss went for over 200 in that game. Georgia was, I believe, just shy of 200. Same with South Carolina. Texas, I think, only had like 32 rush yards in that game. They're just not good offensively. I think that's fair to say. So, I fully expect Tennessee to be the toughest offense that Kentucky has faced all season. And I think you could get one of those guys that you mentioned, Deshaun, or not Deshaun Bishop, but if you don't want to overuse Bishop in the game, you could get Star Thomas or Peyton Lewis involved in it. And, it makes me think back to 2 seasons ago where you've got 3 running backs that you really trust and Jalen Wright, Jabari Small, and Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson had very much been your 3 to that point this season. But Dylan Sampson ended up being a big reason why Tennessee won that game up there in 2023. Now, you would hope it doesn't come down to that this time around, just because Kentucky is considerably worse than that team. Although it's funny, Devin Leary was not good at quarterback for most of that season for Kentucky, and then just randomly goes for 372 pass yards against Tennessee and then disappears again. I don't know if the same will happen with Cutter Boley. I mean, statistically speaking, he was 31 of 39 against Texas, which is not terrible. It's not like he passed for a ton of yards, and he still threw an interception, but and he did run for their only touchdown in the game too. So you do have to keep an eye on him as being a dual threat quarterback. I don't think he's going to kill you like Taylon Green or Ty Simpson potentially, but just know that that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee comfortably wins this game, and as they should. Even if Tennessee was a worse team than Kentucky, that's still a game Tennessee should win, because we are Kentucky's Florida, the same way that Florida is to us. But yeah, do you want to get into predictions for the game?
Yeah, we should probably do that. We've been rambling on long enough. So score predictions, I guess, is something we can get to in just a second. Do we have any keys to this game? I think the big thing is really just reestablish your pass rush, make them feel uncomfortable, and then just run the ball really well. I think is what you got to do in this game. I know that's easier said than done most of the time in the SEC, but It does bother me a little bit that this team is not choosing to run the ball out of the gate and then digging itself into a hole at times. So I think if you come out running the ball well on this team, then the good things are going to happen. And then just avoid any kind of situational disasters and mishaps that you've had in your previous 4 games. It will be a miracle if this team doesn't do it at any point later on in the season. Don't do it on the road against Kentucky, please. Please.
And even if they do, because we know like this is a problem that Josh Heupel's had, at least don't let Kentucky capitalize off of any clock management mistakes or anything like that, or bad play calls. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you on the keys. I think running the football is going to be very pivotal in the game. I think Tennessee could just win by running alone. I mean, if it gets in the passing situation, of course, Tennessee is going to win that battle too. But the only other thing that I'd really add on there is I want to see a couple turnovers from Tennessee. I want their defense to build up some more confidence, even though I don't think they'll need turnovers in the game, because I think Tennessee's offense speaks for itself against Kentucky. But it would be nice to build some more of that confidence up, because they're going to need more turnovers and to make big plays when Oklahoma comes to town.
Yeah, absolutely. So score predictions. Jordan, do you have one?
Yes, and this is going to be an ultra confident one, and hopefully I finally get one right. But I don't see Kentucky scoring a touchdown outside of maybe one McGowan rush. They might get a field goal in the game, but I think Tennessee capitalizes off of a couple of turnovers. And with that being said, I think Tennessee wins 52-10 and takes a beating on them.
Wow, 52-10.
Man,
that would be ideal, because you haven't had a result like that up there since, what was that, 2015, where they absolutely hammered them. So 52-21 up there in Lexington. I'm not that confident.
I'm speaking into existence right now. Tennessee's kicking.
But here's the thing. On paper, there is no way this game should be close. Tennessee's favored by 9.5 on the road, which you would figure means they're probably going to win by more than that if they're favored like that on the road. I'm trying to think. Here's what's difficult about this is, on paper, like I said, they are significantly better. But usually when Tennessee goes to Lexington, it is at least a game. So with that in mind, it's so hard. I'm going to say Tennessee 38, Kentucky 14. That's what I think should happen, just because Kentucky is that bad of a football team. But I could see it being much closer than that. Something tells me it's going to be closer, but that's just the score that makes sense in my head after having watched all those Kentucky highlights and seeing Kentucky play against Georgia. Can they stop the best offense they see all season? And I know Tennessee's defense has been iffy all year, but this is the iffiest offense you're going to see all season. Tennessee's at least gone up against good offenses, and Steve Angeli, Syracuse, Arkansas, Georgia, and Alabama. So it's not as if they've just not gone against good offenses all year. But seriously, Kentucky is not good on that side of the ball. There's no reason they should be scoring more than 17 in this game, I don't think.
And I would argue, too, that even UAB had a better passing attack than Kentucky did, too, with Kitna back there. So, I mean, I don't know. You never know with Tennessee at the end of the day. I feel like they either blow Kentucky out of the water and take out their anger on them for last week, or they underperform, make terrible mental errors and coaching blunders, and then it ends up being a close game. I feel like there's really no in between. I don't think it's going to be 35-24 or anything like that. I think it's either going to be a huge blowout or Tennessee's going to be sweating bullets by the fourth quarter.